The most important step on every journey is the first step. And I think that we're starting this event, this day today, with a very, very great first step. Like the next fireside, I had the opportunity to talk to the panelists. I won't spoil it, but I was truly impressed with the passion, the knowledge, and the insights that they bring. So let me call in David, who will be moderating the panel discussion. And David is our founder and chairman.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Oscar. All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to all those who are online. First of all, I want to thank Frank Estiempo Carvajal for that passionate remarks and how what we're doing at Angeles is helping build that ecosystem, not only for Silicon Valley, but beyond. Frank, your book, Latinx Success, highlighting great leaders, your Silicon Valley Leadership Summit, and all the great things you do with the passion you do, Frank. I want to thank, let's give a round of applause for Frank Carvajal. Thank you, Frank. So we're going to do a fireside chat here with a gentleman I've known almost 15 years. Actually met him not too far away from here at Cisco. At the time, I was a director at Oracle. We were just starting out the Hispanic IT Executive Council. And at the time, G was he was a director at Cisco and was leading up Conexión, their Hispanic ERG. And it's been amazing to watch his career and how he's grown and developed, becoming the CIO, Chief Information Officer at Cisco, one of the world's largest technology companies, serving on the board of Blue Shield California, now becoming the chairman of the Hispanic IT Executive Council, and now taking on this awesome role that we're going to hear more about as the CEO of Conectado. So let's give a warm welcome and bring Guillermo Diaz G up to the stage.
Hey, man. Do we have the clicker?
Yeah, here's the clicker.
Oh, the clicker.
Here's
okay.
the clicker, just for you.
Hey, how do we
How do we
top Frank? That's the first question.
That was passion. That was a lot of passion.
That was a lot of passion. The good news is I get to work with Frank every day.
Okay.
So I see this passion and this fire every day. So thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here, and it's awesome to be here live, right? It's
been too long.
Yeah, it's been too long.
So excellent. No, well, G, we got a lot of ground to cover. We've got so many great things to share. Not a lot of people know you a little bit, but we want to spend a little bit of time starting at the beginning, right? So if you could just kind of where are you from? How did it start out? Just the early years, if you could.
Yeah, the early years. So we want to talk. We ultimately want to talk metaverse and this kind of stuff, right?
Let's lay a little bit of foundation.
But I do think it's important to understand, especially what we're doing with our venture, which is why we do what we do. And you heard from Frank is like why he wakes up every day on fire. Is for me, it started in my family's from Mexico City. My dad immigrated to Pueblo, Colorado, where I was born. Right, so I grew up in Pueblo, in the east side. Frank talked about the east, right?
Every place has their side.
It's like something about the east side of anywhere, right? But I grew up on the east side, and actually, these are pictures of where I grew up, like literal. This picture up here with the mural is where my aunt, that's her store, where we worked as kids, bagging groceries, taking stuff out for the people, and that's kind of actually where I was able to social skills, right? And my cousins who were older than me, they were the butchers, and they were but they would always make us do me and my brother do all the hard shit, right? So, but that's where we grew up. That's an actual picture. The store is now sort of boarded up, but people used to come by, and she used to let folks do murals and on the store. I mean, beautiful murals,
right?
Like the artist the
talent, right?
The talent, right? And if you think about that today, it's like, that's an NFT.
There you
right?
go. Yeah,
and but now, that artistic piece of the kind of inspired me a lot. But this where I grew up here, and I always talk about remember where you came from,
Right.
to inspire where you're going.
You got it.
Right? There's things that I love about, like we talked, Frank talked about it, but there's things that I love about where I'm from. I mean, anybody that knows me, you know this. I always, Pueblo, Colorado,
Is home.
Mexico, right? These things are like in every conversation. That's why we're having it right now.
That's right.
But you have to remember where you came from. Right?
So you're from Colorado. Then what's next? Good family upbringing, but then I think,
so we didn't have a lot of money to go to college, so I went to the U.S. Navy.
okay.
Right? And that's where I knew I was going to, get my, I knew that I was going to get a degree.
Right.
One way or the other, because no one in my family had it. And then the other piece is that my grandmother always said, my abuelita always said, and these micro messages were burned into me early. They said, someone's going to change the world.
Mm-hmm.
Why not you?
Amen.
Right? And so that, a lot of times, and I was talking to somebody earlier about even culturally, the messaging and things like that. It's like, no, mijo, stay in your lane. Mijo, you have a $13 an hour job, mijo. Don't rock the boat. It's like, no, we got to stop that.
You got benefits.
See, I was burned with this. No, you're going to change the world. And I didn't know what that was like. But so going and getting that degree. But while I was in the Navy, I learned about a couple of things. One is that served me to today and what we're talking about. One is I had no idea, but I went into a job called telecommunications. I learned about telecommunications, technology, and security. That was like my job.
Yeah.
And I went to school for it and all this stuff. But the other is growing up in this East Side, and you can see it, is mostly Hispanic. So when I went to the Navy, it was other, right? Black, white, other, Hispanic, which I didn't know they're mostly Mexican here, right? People like you are like, they talk too fast, man. Slow down, these Puerto Ricanos, right? They talk too fast. So, so that diversity, right? And those two things, like that intersection, is really, I think, again, I'm telling you this all leading up to why, right? And why, like, the career trajectory and telecommunications and technology and the networking, but also, we'll talk about it, but also helping build the diversity programs in the companies that I served, right? And so, I created this framework, right, over the years, and this framework, I didn't really understand about purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of doing
vital.
I was kind of doing it, but I didn't really know that there was a purpose. And so I remember one day I was at Cisco, and I had been doing, by the way, this building right here, I think I told you this, this building, the Computer History Museum, one of my first companies was called Silicon Graphics. This is an OG Silicon Graphics building. This was my first building when I came to Silicon Valley.
There you go. There you go.
Right?
It's amazing. That's
and it's like, still, if you go around here, it's purple pillars. That's Silicon Graphics purple. So it made me really proud to be here, right? So it's almost full circle. But this notion of purpose is like, I remember going to this event. Elena Morado, I still remember, she's like, gee, we're thinking about building this group, this Hispanic group. And I'm like, I don't have time. I got my technology, role and so forth. She's like, no, you just come to this event. I went to that event that night at the Sacred Heart Community Center. I still remember this, and I may choke up a little bit, but I still remember this moment where we were giving out the backpacks, and this young boy starts crying, and I'm like, "Why are you crying?" He said, "I never had a backpack before."
Oh wow!
Right, And it's like,
take things for granted, right?
that moment was like, dude, no, there's another thing for you. That kid is you. That's where you came from. And so I'm in this place now where I have a platform as what we do.
Yep.
And then I learned why we do it, right? And then over time, it's like these other two things, East and West, is like the fire. And I saw that fire. And you see the fire in Frank is like where we come from, right? Why do we do it? But we kind of go back to like that picture of Pueblo, right?
Right.
I always think about that. And then perspective, which is really what I learned over time, is how we see things, how we see it. And so that frame right there,
it's like this is your compass, right? This is your personal compass.
I call it my G compass.
Your G
right?
compass, okay.
Right? Because sometimes I can't even say my name, Guillermo, right? People say Guillermo, Geronimo, right? But this right there kind of frames it. And again, why I show this is what we're doing now with this platform, where we're going with this metaverse.
Conectado.
With Conectado, right? You talked about, I was here at Silicon Graphics for many years. Fast forward, I went to Cisco, and I learned, I obviously was in the technology role, but in parallel, I was leading, and I was one of the founders of Conexión, which is the Hispanic Latino group. Which we have also the exec sponsor of Conexión, Laura Quintana, right here in the audience with us. So I'm glad to see her. She was my partner in crime there, so I'm very happy to see her. She didn't know she was part of Conectado, but we just validated that.
She didn't know she was a part of Angeles,
yeah.
but she's also.
But we validated that today. But those things right there, that platform. You're learning about the technology that accelerates, but the why we're doing what we're doing. And so that's kind of the bringing those together, fast forward, Cisco, CIO, all this platform,
And that's an amazing
right?
thing. I just want to pause. I mean, to come, Pueblo, rising through the ranks to become the chief information officer at one of the world's largest technology companies, influential. That's not a small feat, right? And I think this compass, right, is a big driver of kind of one of the things that help you get there, right?
Yeah. So now I leave Cisco in February of 20, right? And I have this, I was thinking about this thing, Conectado. I was actually, but in my mind, there was this ecosystem of all these resources, because there's this fire that looked, hey, remember that kid that had the backpack? Remember these kids that are part of the Cristo Rey network, these students that are Eastside Unified High School, the kids from Pueblo, Colorado. It's like, I remember what it felt like when I got out of the Navy, and I was like the only one. And I said, how do I now, I'm in a place where I'm not any Bill Gates or anything, but I'm in a place where I could actually, now accelerate and hopefully bring up. And
you say, by the way, you're no Bill Gates, but we do a little bit of you did angel invest early on.
I did angel invest. In fact, in the late 90s, I didn't know what that was called, but they said, hey, you make enough money to be this accredited investor. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is, but they gave me an offer for this DSL company, which ultimately got bought by Verizon, and it was called Rhythms. And I was an early investor and friends and family investor. And fast forward, it's like, holy smokes! I dropped a dime, and now that dime's worth 100 dimes. And so it really paid off. And then, in the early, probably mid 2000s, I invested in this company called Facebook, right? Early investor, pre-IPO, and then it was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. I had, and so to date, let's just say, I I've paid off a couple of mortgages.
There you
right?
go. There you go.
And so but it's also about how do you put this together, but how do you leverage this to take those risks, right? I didn't know what that investment was going to do,
Right.
but I knew enough that there were some smart people behind it, and there were some passionate people behind it, and I believed in it. And so part of it is, do you believe in it? So, and this is why I also joined Angeles, because, we've been connected for a long time, and it's like, I believe in you, you believe in me. It's like, hey, this is a good connection. Conectado.
There
no
you go.
pun intended.
There
right?
you go.
So yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, so you've, amazing background. You're to this, and on the military side, thank you for your service. We have several members who are in the military: Rodrigo Garcia, Jeff Martinez, Chris Mendez, Ramon Ortega, a lot of great members that serve our country, which is great from a military perspective. So you have this now. Let's move into Conectado a little bit, right? So this is your kind of the basis.
So let's talk. Let's get into the cool. Let's get into the cool stuff. I see my friend here, Jorge, is like teaching me about crypto and all this stuff, right? But part of it is like, it's we talk about the metaverse, right? We talk about Web3, we talk about blockchain, we talk about crypto, NFTs, all of these things, and how do you sort of decipher them? But for me, those are technologies, the platforms, that will accelerate. And part of what this acceleration, going back to the why are we doing this? It's not because of the technology. The why, let me, instead of me telling you, let me show you.
Going against the grain can be challenging. Growing up in Eastside San Jose as a multicultural woman, you have to work hard to make it. Staying past the bell, finding mentors, building bridges, and taking internships has been a key part of my success. At Cristo Rey, I excelled academically, as well as at my work-study program at Cisco around people that supported me. I worked hard at Santa Clara University and earned a degree in business management during one of the most challenging times, a global pandemic. My journey hasn't been easy, but I haven't traveled alone. I have been surrounded by people who believed in me and helped me build bridges of impact. Conectado. Today, I work at Stanford University as an HR associate. I plan on impacting the world around me and helping build bridges for the next generation, the way Conectado has done for me.
So we've been doing this in manual mode, right? Let's just say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can see there's an example here of why you would do it. By the way, she started it in a work-study program when she was a freshman in high school. And she got exposed to things like, like leaders like Laura Quintana, like, hey, I could see what I could be. She was able to work on really cool things in the supply chain organization. The world's #1 supply chain is Cisco. And she was able to work on projects, things like, she was working on a blockchain project back in 2018, like right when we started.
Wow.
So we didn't know what that was, but she got exposed to that. She had access.
Right.
And then fast forward, she gets a scholarship to Santa Clara. Fast forward, she gets 3 offers. She was like worried that she wasn't going to get any. She gets 3 offers, and her stress was, which one do I take?
That's not a bad.
It's not. I said that's a good stress to have. But our purpose at Conectado is to how do we take that now and leverage the metaverse, the spectrum of digital worlds, these new realities that are now digitally enhanced and animated. These worlds that are now, and by the way, the metaverse there's not necessarily one thing. It's
No, it's a bunch of things.
It's actually many things.
It's like
So
it's a trillion dollar
there's so
opportunity,
much
right?
opportunity
It's
for us,
big.
right? But being able to take this story and scale it, because like as much as I want and you want to have more Kaelas and talk to them, we just can't scale. But what if we were able to give them an experience where they came in and were able to look at people like them, and I can see the experiences. I can see not just the story, but the story behind the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do we then accelerate that through this digital community, this platform that will help kind of connect not just the digital, but the human side. Actually, I want to change this slide because it says digital community, but I think it's a digital community. Digital and physical.
Okay.
Right? Because think about, like, right in this room is, I know that I wanted to come to this. I didn't want to be on. I mean, I love Zoom. I love this. I love the virtual thing. But it's both.
Right.
And so it's a metaverse, but it's also a multiverse. How do we bring the experiences together? So in Conectado, you'll have this extended reality metaverse experience. One, you'll have this ability to connect out to and see the stories, see that story in video format. We have a video platform that we're connecting with. And then 3 is, how do I connect with David or Laura or Katy or, right? Conectado.
Right. And so it's like you've got this trillion-dollar metaverse. You've got an example of kind of how you help one-on-one in the physical side, mentoring Michaela. Then you're saying now with this advent of metaverse, this big opportunity, how can we leverage it and all the different technologies that it has underneath it to scale that? Because you, me, everybody in this room, everybody online, there's only so much we can do individually to make an impact. But I think what you're saying with Conectado is this gives an opportunity to take all those great assets, put them under the metaverse umbrella with a little bit of physical as well, and help scale it.
Yeah.
Is that it, or what would you add to that?
Yeah, that is. And I would say that if you look at, and by the way, we talk about the underrepresented communities. Our focus is the Latino community, but anybody could be on this, right? I mean, we have a few Native American tribes that I've talked to, and they're like, how do I become Latino? And I'm like, no, it's not about becoming Latino. It's about you can have access to this too. Because think about, for us, I mean, let me show you a couple of data points, right? So Latinos are actually the biggest consumers of digital products, services, streaming services, TikTok. Imagine this. You take Latinos off of TikTok, off of Netflix, off of Facebook, off of Instagram for a day. What happens? Facebook and TikTok, these guys really worry about their revenues. I mean, you basically cut out 40% of the users. And the device usage, we're oversubscribed on whether it's streaming, whether it's device usage. You see this, you're driving the mobile numbers, but here's the challenge. The challenge is that, let's look at in the backyard.
Yeah.
My own backyard. Silicon Valley, 28% Latino. Almost 40% K through 12 Latino, but only 3% in the heart of tech representation, right? But look at this other number, 1 million unfilled tech jobs.
Yeah, big gap, right?
So there's a demand, there's a supply. So that's our target.
Conectado, right? Just like that.
That is the target. How do we go and how do we help build the bridge and connect the dots so that it's not about, and I talked with Ed Vargas. Ed Vargas says it's not a pipeline issue, right? It's like, no, it is actually the pipeline is there. It's like, what do we need to do to get them over? Is it skills? Is it confidence? Is it, what are the things? Let's go after that. That's the
put them on the metaverse platform to help accelerate and give them the skills.
So the Conectado, which, yes, metaverse, but remember, in the metaverse, I kind of need some of these things, right? But, you know, probably 90% of folks in our community may not have those. So we have to make it extensible, extended reality. So how do I get it to, like gaming? I could play a game on my device, any device, and I could, let's make it metaverse, the architecture. I'm an architect, so how do we architect it for the metaverse? So it's how do we get it on any device so that we're creating an inclusive way to get to these opportunities?
Got it.
Is that?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But that's the target, right? How do you go and how do we build the bridge? And then how do we tell the stories? And then how do we then navigate and create these journey maps? And we're also working with some really great partners, with Mauricio and with Maria, on they're driving a backpack capability for those in community college and universities that will allow me to sort of navigate my journey. How do I get through so that I can actually finish community college and go to a university or get a job? And Inspírame is working on some really cool things. So we're also actually connecting the dots. We can't do everything.
No, you got to.
But we actually it's like, I'm an IT guy. So I think about, you're an IT guy. We think about service-oriented architecture.
Right.
What we do is we want to create a great experience by pulling in the best possible services to help you ease through that transition to those opportunities, right?
Got it. So kind of what's next for Conectado, kind of where you at, what's next, and then maybe we'll open it up for a couple questions from the audience.
Yeah. So where we're at is we have a few things going on. I mentioned it. So we're building out this experience, right? And even if you look at the technologies, to me, there's the actual extended reality metaverse experience. That's how I sort of navigate. That's the experiential part. And underneath is the kind of the Web3 sort of how the data moves and how do I actually think about the data in Web3. It's actually perfect for Latinos because everything's created at the edges, right?
Just tons of data.
There's so much data, and we're actually creators of that. Look at this guy. Do you remember this thing? This guy, Dogface, right? He actually, created a video. He's like, during COVID, he's just like, I'm going to go drive my skateboard and I'm going to drink ocean spray cranberry juice. And all of a sudden, 12 million views later, this guy is blowing up the internet, right? It's designed for creators. It's designed for Latinos.
It's amazing.
Now, then you start adding, okay, how do you create integrity of that? How do you then create a ledger around it, a blockchain, right? So you have that underlying infrastructure. So there's two pieces. There's the Web3 piece that we need the data modeling, and so that's being built out. But it's also these two things working together, the metaverse piece. So as I'm navigating, creating my journeys, that I'm also informing these network maps. And that network map about Kaela is now, okay, now I know about what she needs,
whatever
where
kind
she
of
needs
path
to go.
she wants to
I want to connect her here. And then sort of circling that with AI and the intelligence, the AI, which is artificial intelligence, but also like what my friend Lily Bayeta talks about, the cultural intelligence.
That's right. You need both.
You need both. In our world, you need both. How do I make sure that Kaela, who comes from by the way, the east side, right? How does she get what not just where she wants to go, but what she needs. What do I need? And how do I stay connected to who I am, where I came from?
Got it.
So you see how, like,
and then she could kind of
Right.
teach and mentor and inspire on the platform as well. And by the way, those who are online, if anybody can find that dog face TikTok, pop it in the it in the chat.
Yeah.
Share it with everybody. It's a great laugh.
You can actually
and
click
the
it.
guy made, like, I don't know what he got a deal with.
Well, he was.
Spray, right?
Again, I'm
You have to ask
thinking
him.
out loud. I have to ask the guy, but he was not very. I mean, he was living like a mobile home or something.
Yeah.
Now he bought his mom a house. He got a sponsorship from Ocean Spray. He has a house. I mean, this guy just went viral, man.
It's a great kind of data.
But my point is, he's an artist.
Yeah.
He turned that art into a real. He monetized it.
Amen.
Right. And that's what we do.
That's
remember that mural I showed you at the very beginning? Imagine if we had this back then. I could say, hey, forget about my cousins making me go pack groceries, and I'm going to create an NFT out of that picture, right? And I'm going to be like a 6-year-old millionaire or whatever.
There you go. Any questions here? Or G, anything you want to kind of state last kind of words before we open up for questions?
No, I will show one more thing. So I showed you about Kaela. We want to create Kaelas at scale.
Amen.
Leveraging the technology. And you remember this story, right? The story about Myra, young Mexican girl. She also kind of went through that path, a different way to learn through the work-study programs, right? And I still remember we were at a high-tech event. And for those of you on the line, maybe in the room, that were at this event, I was very close to her. She sends a text. She says, I did it. And I'm like, what did you do? And I'm like, and then it was like, dot, 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 dot. And I was like 10 minutes later, dot, dot, dot. It's like, come on, what did you do? And by the way, we're having our high tech, after party or whatever. We're in a bar, and she says, I got into Cornell. Dude, I just started crying.
Well, I can imagine.
And people in that bar were like, what the hell, dude? Right? They're thinking somebody. I'm like, look at this text, and the room erupted. These were executives that saw this young lady.
Yeah,
when we got her on the stage.
She was in high school.
She was in high school then. She fast forward. She gets into Cornell, goes through similar steps as Kaela, you saw. And then in December, she graduates from Cornell, and she has a job waiting for her at PepsiCo. So what about that? That's what we're going to, right? That's what we're going to digitize. That, yes, the technologies, the Metaverse, the Web3, the blockchain,
But that's the outcome.
That's why.
That's the outcome, right? You
That
want to do that at
4%,
scale.
6%, 8%, those are the metrics that we're focused on.
Amen.
Right?
Well, G, thank you for kind of sharing your story from, the youth growing up, the base, the foundation, your service, your leadership within the business world, your angel investing experience, right, and joining Analyst Investors, and now you're going to share that perspective with us. And then what you're building here with Conectado, right? I think it's inspiring. I think the outcome is going to be phenomenal, and we're here to support you on the journey and this broad community and ecosystem that we have. So let's give it up for Guillermo Diaz. Thank you.